Welcome to How to Be a Person, a podcast about life with me, your host, Giuliano. Robin, thanks so much for joining me today. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. I know that, some of the topics that you hit on, like hypnotherapy and psychology and stuff like that. And so I'd kind of love to just dive in. But
Okay.
for me and for everyone who's listening, just tell me a little bit about yourself and we'll kind of go from there.
Well, I've been on a long journey,
Okay.
long journey, probably longer than you've been on this planet, trying to figure out how to make some changes in my life. I was raised in the church, I'm a PK, preacher's kid.
Okay.
And I got some bad programming. We'll just say some beliefs that did not serve me.
Okay.
And they were wrapped around the context of religion. So
Yeah.
now I am an ordained interfaith minister,
Okay.
but I don't do the religious thing. I am interested in human potential. That's my jam. I believe we are created in the image and likeness of the Creator, but I believe that is a potential that we have to activate. It's not an automatic we experience ourselves in that way. And certainly the way our world is set up, it's not set up for us to experience ourselves that way. And as a woman, and as an African American, and growing up middle class, there are a lot of programs that are designed to keep us playing a specific role. And that role serves the system. It doesn't serve our higher nature. And it doesn't serve the greater good. And so I just started searching. And I would just get little bits and pieces. And I'm like, oh my God. It was just so frustrating. Just so frustrating. And I could see part of the problem, but I couldn't address it. I could see the limiting beliefs, but I couldn't get them to be dissolved or deactivated. And I'm just like, this is so frustrating. This is so frustrating because I know I see a lot of multi-talented people, and you see people and they have so much potential. And it's like, why is your life look so uninspiring? Why aren't you using that potential? And then I could look at myself and see that also. And so the last piece of the puzzle for me was the hypnotherapy.
Okay.
Because I did not realize how the mind worked.
And with the hypnotherapy, like what specifically do you mean by that?
See, most of what we do in life comes out of a programming. It's automatic. It comes from our subconscious mind, which is about 88 to 95% of everything we're doing.
Okay.
And the conscious mind is only operating about 12 to 5%. So we think our conscious mind is running the show. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's the subconscious mind. And when we're ages in utero, get this, it doesn't start when you're born. It starts before you're born. You're being programmed from your mother's emotions, what she's taken in, her stress, the environment that she's operating in. Now we start this programming. And from 0 to like about 7 or 8, a child is in a hypnagogic state. That's how we learn. That's how we can learn so fast. Because our minds are open. We're like sponges. But unfortunately, we absorb everything. We absorb the good, the bad, the ugly, the trauma, the stupid, the crazy.
We're absorbing all the stupid.
We're absorbing it all. And I believe that, okay, I believe in God, creator, universe, you can call it whatever you want to call it. I
Okay.
believe that there is this source, this power, this intelligence. I believe it is benevolent. And I believe it has set up some safety nets for us because
Okay.
it's aware. It's not just aware, it's right here, it's everywhere.
Okay.
So it's aware. So there are some safety nets. So the adult, everybody gets tapped at some point. You get tapped by the universe. Say, hey, you like that story you're living?
Mm.
Is that working for you?
Mm.
And then we get to say, I don't like this story. I don't like this story. Sucks. Can we do some rewriting?
Yeah.
And we're given an opportunity to make some choices that will then start challenging those default beliefs.
Mm.
And as we begin to make those choices, then more options open up for us. And today, Giuliano, I was just thinking about it today because I get real bent out of shape when I look at what's going on in the world. I'm an empath. I'm sensitive. And I work with guides. You can call them angels, whatever.
Okay.
And they're like, that's not on your plate. Mind your business. That's God's business. But I look at what's going on in the world and I'm like talking to God, like, you got to explain something to me. You got to, because I'm not understanding why stupid humans, ignorant humans, bad humans are having so much influence on how the world functions. I don't understand that. Please help me understand that. Because it feels like it sometimes feels to me like we come in and we're set up to lose. And I know that's not true. So I know it's not true because even though I see the world the way it is, I've seen things in my own life that's like, whoa, what just happened?
Yeah.
Like, that was a miracle.
Yeah.
Like, how did that just happen?
Yep.
And I've had it happen over and over and over again, and there's a pattern.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen.
Yeah.
There's a pattern. And so I was talking to God today, and I was like, I started this last night because I have to come off of YouTube. YouTube is like, it's my kryptonite. Because I come out of the tech industry, 25 plus years. I love tech.
Okay.
And all this AI stuff. And then I'm looking at all the polarization and, all this craziness. And we're going to replace all humans and nobody's going to have a job and, all this other kind of stuff. And it's my kryptonite. But I don't want to have my head in the sand. So I'm going on and I'm just looking through thumbnails, looking at the titles. And I just got triggered. I just got triggered.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no. And my guy's like, you got to come off. You need to go on a YouTube diet. So I got triggered. And we had this conversation about that being my kryptonite and even micro exposures to it. If I just sit there and start going through do, I start to feel a sense of powerlessness, not for myself, but for humanity.
Yeah.
And I get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And so that started me last night. So that's why I was like, I need you to explain something to me. Help me understand, because this doesn't feel right. Something's off here. And today, I got some insight. So this is new to me. New.
Okay.
Off the press.
Hot off the press. Let's go.
Right. The universe, God, life, is a responsive being. It's he, she, it responds when we make a proper request, when we take a proper action, when we move towards it responds. Now, here's the point. We must give it something to respond to. So if you're just sitting on your hands waiting, it's like GPS. Do you have GPS in your car?
Yeah.
So you know how you put in the address, like this is where I'm going, and then if you just sit there, it doesn't say anything?
Yeah.
You have to move.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to move. And then when you move, it will respond.
Yeah.
And it will say, turn right, turn left. It will even say, hey, you messed up. You missed your turn, recalculating.
Yeah.
They used to say that, recalculating, because it's important for you to know when you just made a wrong turn so you can course correct, right?
Yeah.
But if you are not moving, nothing happens.
Yeah. It's almost like the people, like when you talk about people who are bad or who have bad intentions or whatever, having so much of an influence, is like, well, because they're taking action to have that influence.
Yes.
And the good people are sitting in the background going, why is this happening? Instead of
yes.
focusing on what they want and then taking action towards
yes.
what they want.
Yes.
Interesting.
And here's the other thing. There's two parts to how life operates. God, source, Gus. God, universe, source. I like that, Gus. There's two ways it operates. One is impersonal through the law. It's like gravity. Gravity doesn't care if you voted red, if you voted blue. If you jump off that building without a parachute,
you're going to splat.
Red or blue ain't going to save you.
Yeah.
Right? It's completely neutral. There's spiritual law. It's completely neutral. So when we see bad people, they know how to do certain things and manipulate certain things. They know how to use the law so they get results. Now, I'm not going to say that there's not a karmic debt that goes with some of these things they're doing.
Yeah.
It's like, if I keep eating the donut, nothing's going to stop me from eating the donut. But at some point, I'm going to need to lose some weight. I might end up with diabetes.
Yeah.
All kinds of health issues are related to too much sugar.
Yeah.
But those can be so far down the line, we might not associate it with, oh, that's because I kept eating donuts and eating donuts and eating donuts. So we get very far from the consequences, and we don't make a correlation that, oh, this is a result of me doing something I shouldn't have been doing. So now I think we're in a time where the results come a little faster now. And I think time has compressed so that we can begin to pay more attention to, I did this. I'm going to give you an example.
Okay.
I invested trillions and trillions of dollars in this AI promise because I want to make a mega $1 trillion, and I don't care what the what the human ramifications are. I just want to make this money. So I'm just investing. Does that make sense? Because what's the basis of this promise? Marketing? Good marketing? Marketing hype? What's the basis? And so now investors are starting to look and say, well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Where's my ROI going to come from? And some of these companies are like, but we need you to build some more data centers, and we need you to put in more billions of dollars. And at some point, you're going to make your money back. Don't it sound like a Ponzi scheme?
A little bit, yeah.
And so maybe this cycle has been like 2 or 3 years. Okay. But I believe, and I don't just believe because you see the stocks and how much Microsoft lost in just a quarter, and OpenAI is struggling. You see that the investors are starting to say, oh, wait a minute. this doesn't sound like a wise investment for me to keep riding this train. Because it looks to me like this train is going off the rails. And so they're able to see, but they've 2-3 years been pouring money into this stuff. And so the point is, what was told to me is the universe is responding. Are we paying attention? Are we paying attention? And when we take an action, we need to take a moment to evaluate, okay, did I get the results I was looking for? Or did I get something different?
Yeah.
Should I keep going down that way? Or should I stop and maybe pivot?
Yeah.
And so what I think is happening is we're coming to a point where the individual has to start paying more attention to what they're doing and then how the universe is responding. It's like a conversation.
Yeah. I heard something recently that was talking about like the quantum field and how the quantum field is a responsive system.
Yes.
And it's exactly what you're describing here, right?
Yes.
Where it's like we're going to get a response based on what we're putting out into that quantum field. And it's like you said, it's like the people who are, getting what they want in like a bad way. It's like, well, they're putting out, like you said, they're following the rules, and like the rules might, like you said, they apply to everyone regardless
Right.
of what your intentions are. And they're just going along with those laws, those rules.
Right.
It's kind of interesting. I had a question for you. Because before, what you said was that you were raised religious, and that you still believe in God, but you say you don't follow any particular religion, correct? So, and one of the things you mentioned was you were talking about limiting beliefs. And what I'm wondering is, do you feel like those limiting beliefs were like inherent in the religion, and that's where you were getting those limiting beliefs from?
Well, some of them definitely were, because I was raised where women were basically, we're the cause of the downfall of humanity.
Eve, right? Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's your fault. Hey, but God didn't tell me not to eat the apple. He told you. So let's leave that alone.
No, we can talk about that. No, because look, I was raised religious as well. Okay. And it's funny that there's a lot of things that you just accept because it was told to you. And you don't look at like the subtext, but like really what you said, that is the subtext, that like there's a man and there's a woman, and the woman made a decision that ended up, like you said, in the downfall of humanity. And so you might not overtly read it that way, but ultimately at its core, it's like, oh, we're here because a woman made a mistake. And it's like, that's kind of interesting.
And so as a result of this, the woman gets to be a second-class citizen. The woman gets to be subjugated. The woman gets to be less than. And I'm going to say that's kind of the context for that conversation.
Yeah.
In my home life and upbringing, that's not what I saw.
Okay.
My father adored my mother. When my mother died early, they had been married like, I want to say 60-something years, 50-something years, and she died. I never saw a man weep like that. And they called us in the emergency room, and I just stood there. I was so scared.
Yeah.
My father was wailing. He lost the love of his life. Yeah. So the context for the church was not the context that I witnessed in my home, but it confused me.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things for me that's been really important, because like I said, I was raised really religious as well, and now I'm also not. like you talking about the whole limiting belief thing, that
Mm-hmm.
really is like, there are a lot of things that I could point to and be like, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But ultimately, I believe that we all have so much potential.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things that I really, really didn't like about religion, was that you were not encouraged
Right.
to fulfill that
Yes.
potential. It was,
Yes.
here, this is where your lid is, right? Like, no matter who you were. And
Yes.
of course, for you in your situation, right, specifically talking about women, okay, there's a cap there. But it was the same thing with men, right?
Yeah.
Like, there was always like, it's like, you have to be humble and don't be prideful. And like, this is where you're at. And no matter what, like, you still have to submit yourself to this. And
Mhm.
I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with, like, in my opinion, a true definition of humility. But the definition of humility that was impressed upon me from religion was basically feeling worthless.
A false
It was,
humility.
exactly. It was almost like a performative
Yeah.
um, lack of self-esteem, right? Where it was
You
like,
know what it is, and it's built into our social conditioning. So I learned of two words you want to, not two words, but two concepts you want to
okay,
plug into: low personal, low agency mindset,
mm,
high agency mindset.
mm,
Low agency mindset makes you passive. It makes you a victim. It means the power is out there.
yeah,
It means you don't have a say in your life.
yeah,
High agency is the opposite.
yeah,
I determine, the quality of life I live by
yeah,
the choices I make. I have some influence over my environment, not the whole world, but over my environment and those things that affect me. High agency, if you think about it, created in the image and likeness of the Creator, you got to be operating at a level of high agency
yeah,
because you are a demi creator, a demigod.
mm,
You have that kind of power.
yeah,
And if you give it away, there will always be someone that says, I'll take it. I'll take it.
interesting.
I'll be your God. It's a form of adultery, right?
Yeah. Hey, it's Giuliano. I'm just popping in here to say how much I appreciate you being here listening, and that I hope you're enjoying the show. The more support that the show gets, the more episodes can be produced. If you can only support by sharing it with others or leaving a review, I appreciate that so much. But if you're the type of person who would like to support the show directly, you can do so by visiting howtobeaperson.co and click support the show, or just click the link in the show notes. Every bit of support means the world to me, and no matter how you choose to support the show, I appreciate you being here listening. I love what I do, and it's because of people like you who listen to the show that I get to keep doing it. Thanks again so much for being here. All right, back to the episode. Do you believe that that's what religion is? That it's essentially, because, like, I mean, I'm always changing my mind because I'm always open to being wrong, because I always believed I was right when I was
Mm-hmm.
in religion. And now I'm like, no, I'm always open to being wrong. And so I'm always open to changing my mind about things. But when I think about things like the Bible, right, like some of the things that are said, like you said, being created in God's image, it's like, okay, whether that's true or not, let's say it is true. That means so much for us as humans, yet religion, while being the one who's telling you this, that you're creating God's image, is also the one to push you into this low agency mindset, like you said.
Yes.
And so do you feel like that's why it's there, is, like you said, is someone willing to take that power?
I believe that the originators of what we call, okay, so I'm going to just say this. Jesus was not a Christian. Do you You know that,
Yeah.
right?
No, Jesus was
He
a Jew. Yeah, of
lived
course.
and
He was.
died as
Yeah.
a Jewish person.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
why they called him rabbi.
Yeah.
He worshiped in a synagogue.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it doesn't make any sense because it's literally Christian is right. The whole point of it is that you follow Jesus. So like he couldn't have been
And
a Christian.
Jesus wasn't trying to convert anybody to Judaism. He wasn't trying to do any of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I asked this, like, tell me about this. Tell me, why has a part of Christianity been co-opted and used to harm people?
Hmm.
And the answer is the same thing. When there's a part of humanity where we are in our development, we want someone to tell us what to do. It's kind of like in the Avengers, Loki. He says, you want somebody to tell you what to do. You want somebody to be your God.
It's
you
so
want
true.
somebody to bow down to. I'll be that person.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Lokis in the world. I'll be your God. That's we're not supposed to put anyone above God. No one goes above God. So when the preacher puts himself on the same, no. When the pastor, when the reverend, when the president, when the king puts himself on the same level, no. That's idolatry. You are not my God. You didn't create me. You didn't create me. You didn't create me awesome and magnificently made. Every human can boast that. Not because it's something they did. We didn't make ourselves. We didn't give ourselves this amazing body, all that intelligence in just the vehicle. We didn't do that. So I'm not going to say, I don't want to blame. I don't want to blame, because I looked across as interfaith. We look across, I went to interfaith seminary. I'm standing there with the Catholic nun and the Buddhist and the Protestant and the Muslim and the witch and, the goddess worshipers. None of us gave up what we believed in, but we went a little higher and said, okay, what's the universal aspect that we see here that unites us? Because if there's, most people don't even know that in Hinduism, they got thousands of gods. I have an affinity for that because they have the female and the male. But if you go to the source, there's one source. Most people don't realize that. There is a source in Hinduism. It didn't start with 1,000. The one created then is sort of like, one, like we believe.
Interesting.
And so I believe what happens is some clever humans figured out how to co-opt the intentions of the sages so that they can be on par with God, so that they can rule over us, so that they can create hierarchies of power. That wasn't the intent. If you think about it, Christ is like, if you think about it, if you believe in the Bible, Christ says, okay, when you go to have this conversation, say, our Father, which art in heaven. Okay, so now if he's your Father and he's my Father, that means we're siblings. You just know a whole lot more than me. But that's my Father too, if you ascribe to that.
Yeah, that's interesting. It is interesting. Yeah, I was curious about the interfaith thing because I feel like Obviously I just am going to have, my own thoughts from my own personal experience. I don't think anyone can claim to know 100%, but it feels like religion, in my opinion, was like, it started out with, people having good intentions of maybe, documenting or putting structure to, or sharing with other people the things that they, were learning, and the things that they were discovering about themselves and the way the universe works and all of that. But inevitably, through that process, it's like you end up having people that plug into that structure. And, I don't, because it's going to take us down a whole other road too. I don't believe, and I know that with things that are going on, this probably is a controversial thought, but I don't believe that there are bad people. I believe that people are inherently good. And I think that it's a series of either things that have happened in their environment, their life experiences, etc., that they end up where they are and make the decisions that they are. So I don't mean that there's no bad things that happen, obviously. But I believe that, like, you take any individual and you rewind far back enough, and they were just an innocent baby, right? Like,
Okay.
they weren't
So
born
let's
evil.
look at that, because there's also I'm in my second year of hypnotherapy, so I've got my certified,
Okay.
and now I'm going for my clinical.
Okay.
And we're looking at the psychology, and so we're looking at mental health part of it.
Okay. Okay, hold on. So I want to know about this, but I just want to wrap up what I was saying. And the reason why I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that is that I do think that certain people with bad intentions maybe were plugged into those structures that were created by people with good intentions, and then we ended up where we are. That was
Oh
why I
yeah.
was mentioning
Oh,
that.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
but please continue.
Yes. So I want to say that there are people who are there's something wrong, and we can see, you know, the way that nature works. It, like, 99% of the time, it follows its own design. And then there can be sometimes something goes wrong.
Sure.
And there are people where we don't understand why something goes wrong. And it doesn't even have to be from their environment. They could have had nothing ever traumatic happen to them, but they are disconnected from seeing humans as being valuable. A human and an ant, whatever. And as far as good and evil is concerned, those are things we talk about that. We like to label things.
Mm-hmm.
If you if someone says, if you push a button, if you push this button, you're going to kill everybody in this continent, and you think, and you like, and you push the button. No malice. No malice. But you just harmed other humans. It wasn't out of malice. A lot of things that are happening, it's not out of malice. It's because they're only thinking about themselves. They're only thinking about their little tribe. They're only thinking about what it's going to do for them, because they don't have any connection or compassion or sense of love for something that is not them. It's not malice, but the results are the same. You just hurt other people. When we become so self-absorbed that we don't realize there's another human on the other side of that decision, that's when we come to be at risk of hurting other people. Now you can attach the word evil to it. You can attach ignorance to it. You can attach, it could be out of a mental illness. It doesn't matter. The results are the same. And we are responsible for the things that we do and the impact that they have. We are designed to be good stewards and good neighbors. We don't have to call it evil. We still don't want you to do it. We don't want you to push that button.
Yeah.
But we don't have to call you evil. Just don't push the damn button.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little more about the hypnotherapy? Like you said that you started doing this a couple of years ago.
Hypnotherapy. I went through a couple of trainings. I went through a training with Marissa Peer, and that was a year long, but it didn't give me what I wanted. And then I went into a school called HMI. It's a college, 12-month program, and I'm in the second year now.
Okay.
And what we know, so it talks about, basically we're talking about the neural science of it, the mind, how the mind works.
Yeah.
The brain is the interface for the mind. We don't know what the mind is because the mind is not a physical thing. And from my perspective, the mind is a spiritual organ, a spiritual device, a spiritual technology that actually connects us with the infinite. But the way the mind works is, and you know how habits happen. If you do something over and over and over again, the brain says, oh, that has taken up so much energy. Let's just wire that in. You wired it in so it can be automated, so don't have to use all that energy. Then that response is like, sports people are really good. And when you see a professional athlete and they're like really, really good, they've programmed in a lot of that proficiency, those moves, those responses, now their reaction. They don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
They've trained themselves by running the drills, repeating over and over and over again, practicing over and over and over again. This is how we learned math, practicing those drills. 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4, over and over again. And then after the mind says, I'm not going to keep doing all of these combinations, let's wire it in. So I'm going to tell on myself. I sit at my computer and I'm like, let me go over to YouTube and look up. I'm trying to learn how to draw anime. I love anime.
Okay.
And I I look at the thing, and then all of a sudden over my feed, it's like, AI did such and such. So, I'm in the technology. It's like, okay, click. And then next thing I know, I'm watched 10 more videos about AI stuff. And scrolling, watch, scroll, watch, scroll, watch, scroll, watch. The mind says, she keeps doing that. So the mind's like an algorithm. She keeps doing that. Let's wire that in. So it's very hard for me to go to YouTube and just look at one video and leave. Because automatically my eye goes over to the
and then I see on the side.
Into the thumbnails, and I'm like, AI this and AI that and AI. I'm like, yeah. So this is how the mind works. So our mind, and then we make associations. A lot of people, I don't know if you've ever tried this, but you probably haven't noticed that probably when you put on your pants, you put the same leg in first, and then you put the next leg in. Try this tomorrow. Try to switch that and see how unfamiliar that feels.
Yeah.
You drive out the house. If you work the job and you drive out the house and you turn right, and you drive out the house and you turn right, and say your job moved. Now you got to drive out the house, out the driveway and turn left. You be like, oh crap.
Yep.
It got wired in.
Yeah.
So beliefs are also something we can practice. They're thoughts we practice. Decisions we practice over and over again.
Yeah.
So the mind says, let's wire that in. So that belief is running in the background. So you don't have to think about it. And then you're making all of these decisions. You're doing all of these things based on this thing that's running in the background. And if the belief is, I'm not good enough, that's running in the background.
Yeah.
And when someone says, hey, Robin, you want to speak at this thing? And it's like that program is right. It's like, I'm not good enough. Hey, Robin, it's a job over here and it does such a, you want to apply for it? What's running in the background? I'm not good enough. Oh, Robin, I have a potential client for you. They are awesome. And they blah, 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 blah. You want to set up a meeting with them? What's running in the background? I'm not good enough. That 95% is our life. That 5% that we have, our conscious mind, it's not as powerful as that 95%.
Yeah. And so is the idea that through hypnotherapy, you can change that 95%?
You go in and you reprogram some stuff.
Interesting. And I'm curious, just based on your experience, like what are some of like the big applications for that? Like that for most people would be like, hey, wow, I need that.
Well, a lot of times some people come to me and they start with anxiety. And if you understand how anxiety works, when we're in constant fight, flight, freeze, now we're activating our tribal fear-based part of the mind and our prefrontal cortex, where we can make decisions and set goals and, defer, gratification and make plans, that gets deprioritized. So it's very hard to see your options and go for goals when you're in constant anxiety and constant stress. And you're not going to be creative. And anything you're going to do is going to be tied, because now the mind is prioritizing, it's not safe and I need to be scanning for threats and I need to defend, I need to run, I need to fight, I need to flee, I need to freeze. That's procrastination. And so one of the things that happens is when people return to a natural state of calm, it's like, oh, I have a goal I'd like to go for. Now that part of the brain is now getting resourced. And now you can start dreaming again. And now you can start having goals again. And now you can start loving life again. Because you can't love life if you're in constant fear and stress. So that's one big thing.
Yeah, no, that's a big deal. And I think what's interesting about it to me, because I don't know a lot about hypnotherapy, but it is interesting because it feels like I've had to spend years trying to change my beliefs, right, about myself, about the world, all of it. And it makes sense what you said, where like our conscious thoughts are really just a small percentage of our actual thoughts, and that our actual thoughts are basically running programs, running, patterns in the background, and that, yes, we can influence that and change it slowly over time through our conscious thought, but that ultimately, like, hypnotherapy is like a way to basically just hack into the subconscious thought and be like, let's just change it right now instead of taking time.
Yes. It's like, I don't have that much time. I don't have that much time to be waiting to drip. And hypnosis is I don't want to make people think it's magical. But in a way, it's kind of magical.
Yeah.
They were looking at a study where people, hypnosis has been used in a time when there was not anesthesia. There were surgeons that performed like serious surgeries. No anesthesia. You know what they were
Really
using? Hypnotherapy.
interesting.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, it's funny when you say magic. I mean, magic is really just something happening that you don't understand,
Right,
right? That's
right.
basically all it is. So yeah, maybe there's, a mechanism to it, a specific mechanism that you just can't nail down. But hey, it's like you said, it might feel magical. What I was
Mhm.
curious about, one of the things that we were talking about, that we were communicating about before we had the episode, was about misdiagnosing people.
Mhm.
Um, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Oh, I'm going through this now. We're the first 8 weeks of our program. I just
Yeah.
started it in January, and they have us going through the DSM, which is what they use for mental health
Okay.
diagnosis. And we don't work in that space, but we need to understand it because we need to know if we come across somebody
Yeah.
like schizophrenia and all the things schizo are contraindicated. Like you don't want to do hypnosis on a person that's already having that can't tell the difference between reality and their illusions, right?
Okay.
So it turns out that there are a fair number of times people are misdiagnosed
Okay.
because it's tricky. The mind, we don't really know that much about the mind.
Okay.
And then some things take so long to diagnose because you need to be able to see, did this happen? Did they have hallucinations? Do they have delusions? Do they have mania? Do they have depression? Do they have, a lot? And then you have to watch for all those things before you can diagnose, oh, it's this and not that.
Hmm.
And they change. Asperger was a diagnosis. It's no longer in the DSM.
Yeah.
They took it out, and it's now the traits of it, the symptoms of it are put into something else now.
Yeah. This is,
Autism on the spectrum. Yeah.
oh, really? Okay. Interesting. If you don't have life insurance or you've been meaning to update your coverage, this is your reminder. I have my own policy because I want my wife and son to be taken care of no matter what. And if you're responsible for anyone, it's one of the smartest things you can do. Go to life.howtobeaperson.co or tap the link in the show notes to get covered. All you have to do is fill out the short form, and a trusted agent will reach out and help you figure out your options. All right, back to the episode. So this is part of the reason why I wanted to talk about this, is because recently on another episode, I was talking about depression, and this is something that I've talked about for a long time. And it always, like, whenever I post about it, it's people just argue about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious to get your thoughts on it. I'm not a doctor. I haven't been to college. I'm not going to claim that I'm 100% right, but based on my own experience, right, this is what I've come up with. Because I feel like I suffered from depression, like suicidal thoughts, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now I don't. Okay. So I'm just, like I said, this is just from my own experience. But one of the things that I've said was that, and this is part of what was controversial, was that depression is, and I would assume this applies to everything else psychologically. Depression is a disorder. And if you look up, what's a disease versus what's a disorder, and you like dig, essentially the difference is that a disorder commonly doesn't have a known cause, that it's essentially a collection of symptoms. And they go, hey, when you have all of these symptoms, that's this. And because of that, the conclusion that I've come to is not that it's not real, right? Because I've experienced those feelings. I know that the feelings are real, but that we tend to look at things like depression or whatever, any other type of disorder, as a disease, right? As something that we're afflicted with, that's outside of our control, something that, people don't talk about like catching it, right? Like you don't catch depression, but in a similar fashion, as if it's something that you've been infected with, right? Where it's something where it's like, hey, I can't control it, right? Like I just got the cold, right? Or I got the flu or something like that. That not that it's contagious, but that in the same way that it's something outside of your control that just happened to you, and that there's something inherently wrong with you, right? There's something physically measurable inside of you that says, hey, I have this thing. And like when it comes to stuff with mental health, it's not. And like, even I think what you mentioned about Asperger's is like a good example where like, or the DSM, what does that stand for?
Diagnostic Statistical Manual. It was created by psychiatrists.
Yeah. So it's essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, but that each thing that you would diagnose someone with is not based on like a test, like for example, that you would like measure something within someone's body to be like, oh, yep, see, you've got the flu. But it's a, hey, what symptoms do they have that match another set of symptoms that we've identified in the past and described this way? Is that correct?
Well, if you think about even when we diagnose something physically, those are a list of symptoms.
Yeah.
This is why the doctor says, let's try this medication or let's try that medication or whatever. None of this stuff is precise as we think it is. They're doing the best that they can. It's a very complicated situation. Yeah. And as far as depression is concerned, and some mental disorders have biological causes.
Yeah.
Some have biological causes, and some can only be treated with medication. If you don't, because the person can end up hurting themselves or harming themselves, and it's not something that will go away on its own. It's a lifelong thing that has to be managed. But a lot of them, even schizophrenia and things like that, can be managed. But it's not just through one thing. You usually have to do some, retraining of behaviors. And, a lot of times people have the medication and then they start to feel good and then they get off the medication. So then they go back into the episode. Now let's talk about depression, because it's very interesting. The depression that you go in and you come out after a while, that's one thing. But imagine being in that state for years. Imagine there is no coming out of it. That oh my God, I can't. I've had depression, and just that short little stint. Oh my God, if I had to spend a whole year, 2 years, 3 years in that state, I probably would have taken my life. I probably would have given up. I probably would have gotten sick or something to check out, because that's not our natural state. So clinical depression is very different from what most people call depression.
And so what would you say the difference is then? Clinical depression versus, like you said, someone just saying the word depression?
There's no, you can't talk yourself out of it. You can't think yourself out of it. There's no out. You need help. You need help. You can't resolve this for yourself. You need help. And there's no shame in saying, I need help. I need help. So there are places that can cause depression that just make sense. It just makes sense. Like you're a mother, you have a family, and something happens and your whole family is killed in an accident.
Yeah. Like obviously you're going to be depressed from that.
So grief can trigger what the symptoms that look like depression, but it's really grieving. But if you stay there and you never come out of it, it can spiral. You see
Mm.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think, it's tough because obviously there's people who are like way more educated than I am on the subject. But at the same time, I feel like, right, from what I understand, right, the difference between someone being like, I'm depressed versus someone claiming to have clinical depression, my assumption is that the difference would be, hey, if you're depressed, it's probably because you have a legitimate reason to be. And then if you're clinically depressed, it's because there's nothing that's actually causing the depression. You just feel depressed for no reason, and there's no way to influence it. Now, for me though, and again, this is just what I believe, right? When I think about depression, is that I don't believe that that exists. And I'm not saying that those people aren't having those depressed feelings or that experiences. To me, I look at it as maybe it's less obvious, or maybe like there's something out of alignment that you're not willing to face that is making you feel depressed. Because for me, I will say that there were some things in my life that were obviously like that anyone would feel depressed from than when I was feeling depressed. But then there was a time where that wasn't the case. And it felt like, oh, there's no reason for me to be depressed. I just feel depressed. But looking back now, I can go, well, actually, right? Like deep down, there really were a lot of things, but I wasn't willing to face those, right? At that moment in time, I wasn't willing to admit that those things were making me feel depressed. I wasn't willing to admit that maybe there was a really big part of my life that was out of alignment, that I was
Mm-hmm.
living in a way that truly who I am to my core, I was not living in alignment with. And it's easy to be like, hey, yeah, you have no reason to be depressed. Look, you've got a good job, you're married, you have kids, you have a good house, you're not struggling with your bills, right? Every aspect of your life looks great. So this must be clinical depression because you have no real reason.
No,
When in reality,
clinical
it's like,
depression has to be diagnosed. People need to not diagnose themselves. It's not
yeah,
because we're not trained. I don't we don't want to think that they're just arbitrarily coming up with this. They've looked across thousands and thousands and thousands of people. This has been hundreds and hundreds of years of data. We cannot self-diagnose. That's not what I mean. You can do it, but even somebody who's been trained, when they get into a state like that, they don't want to self-diagnose. They want to go talk to someone who can help them sort it out, because you don't know whether there's something going on biologically or there's something going on spiritually, or there's something going on in your home world, or you just got a toxic job and it's just driving you, it's just so sad that you can't even deal with it, but you don't feel like you have any options.
mm,
I highly recommend talking to someone who's been trained in this. It's not to be taken lightly. It's not when they diagnose certain things, you have to be in a state for an extended period of time. And that's not like, oh, I'm feeling blue. No. People kill themselves because they feel hopeless. They don't see any way out. You could be looking at their lives and everything look perfect and beautiful. There is no shame in saying, I need help. I need help. I had an experience for myself when I was like 18 where I was contemplating suicide. And Spirit said, call Sibby. I'm like, why would I have her number? Call Sibby. Open the phone, open the junk drawer, get the phone book, call Sibby. And so I was obedient. I got the thing and I'm like, I don't even know why I have her number. I called. I sat in a rocking chair and she prayed for me. That was it. That's all I needed.
mm,
But that was one isolated period, and I could associate it with I knew exactly what had triggered it, but it left me feeling so hopeless and so worthless. There is no shame in saying, I need help. In fact, this is why humans need other humans. Don't think AI can be your therapist. Please don't.
Yeah.
Please don't.
Yeah. You
There
know,
is something
sorry, I
there
didn't
is
mean to cut you
something
off.
a human, there is something a compassionate human brings to another human.
Yeah.
And I will tell you what I believe it is. And it goes back to a spiritual principle. When
Mm,
two people come together for a specific cause, purpose, we also invite the infinite
mm,
to come in and be a part of that conversation,
mm.
a part of that interaction.
Yeah.
So it's not just me and you, it's me and you and the infinite.
Mm.
So we need each other. And this is why so many people are feeling isolated and lonely, because we're not connected anymore.
Yeah. I think just to be clear, I want to say this because I want to make like my perspective known.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't like, hey, you need to believe what I believe. I just want to make it known. Like when we were talking about low agency versus high agency, to me, when I think about things, and again, this is not to invalidate anyone's experience, but I feel like a lot of things with mental health and also physical health. I think that the idea that we have to defer to someone who's an expert, to me is like a low agency mindset around physical health or mental health. Now, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying that I would never need an expert for anything, right? There's things where I'm like, hey, bro, if I get into a car accident, please take me to the hospital. Okay. Like I'm
Right.
definitely going to defer to an expert. And just like you said, maybe when it comes to certain mental health things, like, hey, you need to defer to an expert and that's okay. But I think part of what has led me to my perspective on things when it comes to mental health is this idea of having higher agency, right? Of like, wait a second, why do I think that I can't figure this out? Why do I think that someone else is going to have the answer for me because they're more educated or they're XYZ? And again, I'm not saying there's no value to those things, or that anybody has to feel the same way that I do, but just that's the like where the like how I have gotten to the
Mm-hmm.
conclusion that I
Mm-hmm.
have around things when it comes to like mental health and sometimes even
Mm-hmm.
with things with physical health, if that makes sense.
So here's the thing. If you can have that conversation with yourself, chances are you're more grounded in reality.
Mm,
We're not talking about that. When I talk about mental health, I'm talking about um, someone who's. I'll give you an example. I just learned what bipolar is. It's like one of the things in mania. It's like they might not be sleeping like for
mm,
days and days and days and days. That's
yeah.
so dangerous.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. I got sick, and one of the side effects was I couldn't sleep for days and days
Mm.
and days.
Oh yeah. I mean, you could die for not sleeping. Like literally, if you
Oh,
go like a week without sleeping, you might die.
oh my God.
Yeah.
I was so miserable. I tell you, like I was like up in the middle of the night and I'm gonna fill the water cooler. My husband's gonna be proud of me because I usually leave it for him. I'm gonna fill the water cooler. So I filled the water cooler, and you know how it has the thing on the bottom? I
Yeah.
would fill the water cooler. I didn't put the thing on the bottom. And it's just water all over the
Oh
place.
gosh.
You know, I've never ex- I've never experienced anything like that. I was being attacked by a parasite in my
Mm.
body, and it became more active at night.
Oh, interesting.
And I just I can't imagine a person not sleeping for days, and that can be a side of a symptom.
Yeah.
That's a symptom you're not going to think your way out of that.
Yeah,
Something's
no,
wrong.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, for sure. For
But
sure.
if you can sit and have that conversation with yourself, if you can say, I wonder if there's some decisions I need to make or something I'm avoiding, or maybe I need to have that difficult conversation with such and such. And
Mm, yeah.
that's in a different space.
Yeah, well, okay, so what I will say about that, and I think is really important, is that this is part of what like my issue is when it comes to things with like the medical system and like mental health in general, is
Mm-hmm.
that people don't have that conversation first, right? It
Yes.
comes to like, oh, well, I got to go get diagnosed because there might be something wrong with me, as
Yeah.
opposed to, which I mean, that's you
It's
can't blame people for it.
medicine too, because
Yeah.
pharma. My husband is like, I'm not taking this medicine, and then he's like, okay, we got to go back to eating healthy. And even when
Mm,
the numbers are coming down, they want him to stay on. They want to still give him more
yeah.
medicine. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
That's
then they give
exactly
you a
the issue.
medicine, and then the medicine has side effects. And I'm not saying. So here's the thing: if you're already in there, and this, you're right. It's like, because we've been conditioned that the doctor
They know
is
better.
an authority
They
and
know
they
better
know
about our
that
body
better.
than we do.
But his doctor said, he said, how can I get off this medicine? And she said, plant-based. And
Mm,
she didn't say anything else. And then somebody later said, if she had have recommended something to you, she could have lost her job.
mm.
So their hands are tied.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and so that's the point, is that I think that our default should be the empowering perspective, right? How, like, what actually could be at the root of whatever's going on, and what do I have power to change?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, this is not like a demonization of anything, like any, the medical system or treating people's mental health at all, because obviously I think that it's helpful in certain ways. Um, and there's always a balance, right? You have to be able to determine, okay, is this something that I can take responsibility for and make changes and have a better result, or is this something where I do need to defer to an expert, right? So this is not a blanket like, don't go to the doctor, like don't go to a therapist, because I've been to therapy and I found it extremely helpful, and I've talked about it on the podcast here before. But I think the idea is that how can we lean more towards that high agency mindset, taking responsibility for our mental health and our physical health in a way that, hey, we only have to defer to those people when we really are like,
When
hey,
we
yeah,
really
I've done
need it.
everything within my
We
power.
have to do that we have to become that type of person in life.
Yeah.
Don't try to. I'll give you an example, and this is very interesting. Um, when a person comes to us for hypnotherapy and we're doing their intake, we need to find out certain things. And the person's like, well, I've been having this headache, and the headache just won't go away. Then our response is, I need you to go to the doctor,
Mm,
because you've had this headache, you know. And it turned out the person, this is not my story, but this is, our teachers are kind of trying to explain to
yeah.
us
Yeah.
why we do have to have people sometimes go to the doctor, go to the psychologist, to make sure that our obligation is to do no harm. Now,
Yeah.
if I had treated that person so their headache goes away, what happened when they went to the doctor? Turned out they had a brain tumor.
Mm,
Now, if I had treated them for hypnotherapy so that now they're not paying, now the pain is gone, I would have been causing harm.
yeah. Yeah.
So we always have to use discernment.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
if we don't know, we have to err on the side of being over precautious,
Yeah.
because we don't want to cause harm to ourselves, and we don't want to cause harm to another human being, because we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. And I'll tell you, in the situation where I was having issues, and I went to the doctor, and they sent me to another doctor, and they gave me this stuff, and nothing worked. And so I'm talking to my niece, and she's a nurse, and she says sulfur sometimes helps with that. So I go on Amazon, And I done contacted this guy, and he got me doing all the potions and lotions and all this other kind of stuff. I mean, because I'm miserable. I'm not sleeping. I'm in pain. It attacks me at night. And get on Amazon, get this sulfur thing. Problem solved. Sulfur. Sulfur in the bath water. Sulfur soap.
Interesting.
Doctors couldn't solve the problem for me.
Yeah.
Their solution didn't help me at all.
Yeah. See, I think that's really what's important is understanding the context, right? That the doctor, any doctor, is going to be a resource for you figuring it out.
Yes.
It's not, hey, I'm deferring to them as the expert and the last say in how I take care of myself, but they are a resource to help me solve the problem, because ultimately it is up to me and it is my responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Because if they give you the wrong decision, they, unfortunately, you could just end up in a very long love affair with medications.
Yeah. See, that's the thing about it is that I love that. I feel like that's really the ultimate conclusion of this is like, hey, it's not that there is no value, whether we're talking physical or mental health. It's not there's no value in the experts and they should only trust yourself, but it is that they are simply a resource in helping you make a decision about what is best for you. Because even the people who we regard as experts when it comes to mental health and physical health, they ultimately are still not responsible. But you can be like, well, whatever you say, doc. And it's like, okay, but ultimately it's still your decision, because even if they send you down this route and it's the wrong route, like it was still your choice, right? You could have chosen not to go down that route or whatever. So Robin, we got to wrap up.
Okay, yeah.
But this has been a great conversation. So anybody who's listening who wants to connect with you in any way, how can they do so?
So I have a resource. Okay. I do playbooks. It's called climbRightMountain.com. And that is you don't want to climb this mountain and get to the top and be like, I've done it. You invest so much of your life in going for this status or this goal or getting this guy or this girl, and it's like, oh my God, wrong choice. So, and then you look over and it's like, oh my God, that was the mountain I should have climbed. And here I'm you got to go all the way back down the mountain. And it just takes so much effort. So you want to climb the right mountain. So climbRightMountain.com. Okay. And that is a resource and how you can get in contact with me.
Awesome. Well, Robin, like I said, this has been a great conversation. I've appreciated being able to kind of explore some of these topics with you. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it with someone who'd appreciate it. For everything I have to offer, visit howtobeaperson.co.